Good morning, sorry. I hope some of you are here. I'm sorry to be starting a little late. We had a little problem with getting online. Before I start, let's see if anybody's here. Well, there's nobody here. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, we can start. Thank you for being so patient. For those of you who have been with us for the first couple of weeks, we have done a reproduction in flowering plants and asexual reproduction in flowering plants, sexual reproduction in flowering plants, and asexual reproduction in flowering plants. This week, and probably for the next 2 weeks, we will be covering reproduction in humans. Some of you will have done this already. Oh, my favorite people are back. And you look like you brought some friends. Thank you. I'd like you, it'll be the same format as before. We'll watch a couple of videos. I'll take some questions. We'll watch part of a PowerPoint. I'll take some more questions. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. While you're watching the video, write down any questions.
The epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story of all of us. During sexual intercourse, about 300 million sperm enter the vagina. Soon afterward, millions of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluid surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here the cervix is open for a few days while the woman ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which is thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group. Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the woman's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands more. Next, half the sperm head for the empty fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg. Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. Inside the zona pellucida is a narrow, fluid-filled space just outside the egg cell membrane. The first sperm to make contact will fertilize the egg. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane. As the reaction spreads outward, the zona pellucida hardens, trapping any sperm unlucky enough to be caught inside. Outside the egg, sperm are no longer able to attach to the zona pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic material spreads out. A new membrane forms around the genetic material, creating the male pronucleus. Inside, the genetic material reforms into 23 chromosomes. The female genetic material, awakened by the fusion of the sperm with the egg, finishes dividing, resulting in the female pronucleus, which also contains 23 chromosomes. As the male and female pronuclei form, spiderweb-like threads, called microtubules, pull them toward each other. The two sets of chromosomes join together, completing the process of fertilization. At this moment, a unique genetic code arises, instantly determining gender, hair color, eye color, and hundreds of other characteristics. This new single cell, the zygote, is the beginning of a new human being. And now the cilia in the fallopian tube gently sweep the zygote toward the uterus, where he or she will implant in the rich uterine lining, growing and maturing for the next 9 months until ready for birth.
So now I'm going to go through a PowerPoint that I got offline, not my personal PowerPoint. So there will be things on it that are not necessarily on the BGCSE syllabus, but it's not too difficult. So here we go. I'm hoping everybody can see and hear. Human reproduction. What do you think that disgusting ball looks like? From the video is a micrograph of a sperm cell surrounding an egg. And this is an embryo. And can you remember what that is? Now you know what the humans call it. That's the water bag. But its real name is the amniotic sac. So here we're going to identify the structure and functions of the male and female reproductive system. And next class, we'll be talking about the menstrual cycle. So here we have the reproductive anatomy of the human male. It is important that when we learn how to label the male reproductive system, we learn it from the side view and the frontal view. This one here is showing the frontal view. So the main functions of the reproductive structures in male are to produce sperm, which are the male sex cells or male gametes, and to deliver these sperm to the female. So here we have the urinary bladder, which is not a part of the male reproductive system, but they share this tube going down the penis called the urethra. But the products of the bladder and the reproductive products do not pass through at the same time. So you have the urinary bladder, prostate gland, this tube you do not have to learn the name of, and you have seminal vesicles behind the bladder, erectile tissue, vas deferens, epididymis, testes. The vas deferens is also called the sperm duct. You need to know both names. Surrounding each of the testes is singular, testes plural. Surrounding your testes is a sac called the scrotum. Semen, sperm are expelled through the sperm ducts during ejaculation. Ejaculation is when The erect penis spurts out its semen, the fluid. And in the fluid, you have sperm and you have the secretions from the glands. And those secretions, those fluids from the glands, nourish and protect the sperm. Nourish means it provides energy, food energy, and protection. It provides against, it protects against the different conditions that will be found in the vagina and in the uterus. The testes produce sperm. The sperm are located outside the abdominal cavity with a sac-like pouch, which is called your scrotum, and it has to be 1 to 3 degrees below normal body temperature, which is so that because sperm can only form at this temperature. Any questions so far? So we know we can label. What I'd like you to do is to make in your head, I'm going to go back to the original slide, and I want you to make a rough sketch of the male reproductive system. It doesn't have to be fancy, but I would like you to be able to draw and label the parts. So I'm going to call off the parts, and let's see if you can draw them. Let's start with your penis. Not your penis personally, the penis, right? Remember, we're doing it with a cross section. Then through the penis, you're going to draw a tube, which is the urethra. At the top of the urethra, you're going to branch onto 2 sides. One side, each of those sides is a sperm duct. So you're going to have a sperm duct going on each side of the penis. So there's 2 of those. And they're going to end in your testicles. So you've drawn your little testicles. My drawing bad, okay? My drawing is really bad, but that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm only doing a sketch. And then you're going to draw your, okay, so you see my lovely drawing? Isn't it beautiful? Yeah. How your sketching coming out? My sketching's great. It don't have to be pretty. It just have to look and remind us of everything. So, what is A? Welcome, person who's late. A? Come on, you all know that. It's not that bad. That's a sperm duct. And what's another name for the sperm duct? Yes. So you need to be able to draw quick sketches to help your mind. So we're going to go back and let's see how your sketch matches up with our, let's see how your sketch matches with our, here we go. So did you get your testis labeled and your epididymis and your vas deferens going down into your urethra? I didn't add on the prostate gland and the seminal vesicles, but we'll get that when we see some other drawings. Within the epididymis, is a series of coiled ducts for maturation and temporary storage of sperm. The vas deferens is a tube which carry sperm past the lubricating glands. In other words, the glands that provide this fluid. You have the seminal vesicles, which secrete fluid that protects and nourishes the sperm. The prostate gland, which produces an alkaline fluid that neutralizes the urine in the urethra. And the bulbourethral gland, which secretes a fluid that may help to lubricate the urethra. The urethra is a tube in the penis that transports sperm out of the male's body. It also transports urine from the urinary bladder, but not at the same time. The penis is a copulatory organ. That is the organ that is going to be placed into the vagina during sex, and it releases sperm. Ejaculation is a release of semen. All of these terms you need to be familiar with. Give you time to read it, or again for yourselves. Okay, so let's look at a side view. Like I said, you need to know both the side view, to label both the side view and the front view. Again, you have your urinary bladder, which has your urethra coming through it. But remember, the urinary bladder is not a part of the male reproductive system. It is a part of the urinary system or the excretory system, but it does share use of the penis and the urethra, but not at the same time. So let's start again from where the sperms are made. The sperms are made here in the testis. They are stored in the epididymis. When there's ejaculation, they are transported up the vas deferens or sperm duct, and various glands, the seminal vesicle, the prostate glands, and the bulbourethral gland, put fluid into the sperm. The sperm then travel down the urethra and out the penis, out the end. Go back to which notes? Somebody's asked me to go back to the notes. You mean the original first part of the slide? I won't go back on the notes, but I'll go over the same thing using a different set of information. Okay, so you'll still get the same information. I did go back over the slide. Okay, so here we have the female reproductive system. The main function of the female reproductive system is to produce eggs or ova, which are the female sex cells. Another name for sex cells are gametes. So you may see female sex cells, you may see female gametes. Another function is to receive the sperm, and they receive the sperm in the vagina. And importantly, to provide an environment in which the fertilized egg can develop. And that happens in your uterus, in the uterus or womb. So here we have, again, this is a side view. You're going to have to learn both the side view and the frontal view. The side view is not as popular in the BGCSE as the frontal view, but it still comes up. In the male, both the male and both the frontal and the side view come up, but somehow the side view doesn't come up as much in the female. So let's start at the very top where you have your ovaries. So since it's a side view, you can only see one of your ovaries. Females have ovaries on both sides. And then you have this oviduct, which is also called the fallopian tube, and that leads into your uterus. The opening of the uterus is called the cervix, and this opens into this long tube here, the vagina, opens into the vaginal opening. Notice that the urethra in men have two separate openings, two openings. They have the anal opening that women have here, and but they only have one opening where the urethra is. In men, both sperm and urine come out. But in women, the urethra is only attached to the bladder. In women, the urethra has no connection with the reproductive system. So let's get back to the reproductive system again. So we'll start with the ovary, oviduct, uterus, the opening of the uterus called the cervix, and out through the vagina. The ovaries contain structures called follicles, which nurture or nourish the ova. The development of the ova, a woman is born with all the eggs that she is going to ever have. At puberty, an egg starts to develop every month once the menstrual cycle begins. Another function of the ovaries is to produce sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and the ovaries function from puberty to menopause. Puberty is when you have the onset of the menstrual cycle and your secondary sex characteristics, which we will talk about, and menopause, when your period, your menstrual cycle stops. The oviducts, the job of the oviducts is to convey the eggs or to transport the eggs to the uterus. Muscular contractions and cilia draw the ovum to the egg. In other words, they have these projections that sweep the oviduct in a series of movements towards the uterus. Once fertilization occurs in the oviduct, so the purpose of the oviduct is to transport the egg to the uterus. The transport occurs by the movement of the cilia, and it is in the fallopian tubes or oviducts that fertilization occurs. Fertilization only occurs in the oviducts. You're talking about these follicles, which help the, if you look at the ovary, you can see the follicles which help nurture the egg, and corpus luteum. These are two different types of bodies within the ovary that will help with the egg. Then you have the oviduct, which goes into the uterus, and your uterine wall, and your endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus wall. The cervix is the opening, and your vagina. The uterus is where the fertilized egg develops. Fertilized egg will sink into your endometrium, into your uterus wall, into your uterine lining. The uterus opens up into the vagina. The vagina is a tube that can have different widths. It can widen into the birth canal, and also receives the penis during intercourse. Another word for intercourse is copulation. Please don't use any of your common terms in your exam. Nobody's going to mark them right. Okay, so we're going to talk about puberty on another lesson, but we'll just talk first about this. We'll finish here with the structure of the male and female organs. Ejaculation is a release of semen, and semen is of sperm and the fluid that comes from the glands. It's the white ejaculate that comes out of the penis, and in the semen you have the sperm and the fluids from the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland. Any more questions? Okay, I'm going to show another video. And again, like I said, it's going to be posted. So you're trying to write down. Please don't try to write down all the notes. They're going to be there on the site for you. So I'm not abandoning you. So you don't have to try and write down all the notes. If it helps you and you're just writing down little bit things to, like annotating your drawing, so that would help. But you don't have to try and write down everything. No questions? Please put your questions in the chat as opposed to Q&A, because I find it easier to follow, easier to look at, because it's only me here. Okay. Give me a second. My other video seems to have gone the way of all things. This is annoying. That's fertilization. I don't want fertilization. I don't want my PowerPoint. Definitely don't want y'all to see that. Okay, so once again. Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Give me a minute. My share screen and I are having an issue.
Humans reproduce sexually with what we call internal fertilization.
Okay, I want to know. Good morning, more of us. Oh, here we go.
Adapted to produce the sperm and deposit it in the female. And
Starting again.
Humans reproduce sexually with what we call internal fertilization. This means that the sperm meet the egg inside the female's body. Therefore, the male anatomy is adapted to produce the sperm and deposit it in the female, and the female anatomy is adapted to receive the sperm and to grow the baby. So you do need to know about the different anatomy of the male and the female and learn about the structures and the functions involved. So let's start off with the female. The first structure to look at is the vagina. The vagina is used for sexual intercourse. The sperm are deposited there. The cervix is at the sort of neck of the vagina, the top of the vagina there, and it separates the womb, the uterus, from the vagina. And it is a ring of muscle which holds the baby in the uterus during pregnancy. The uterus, as I've already mentioned, is the womb. It's where the baby develops, and it has a lining called the endometrium, which is full of blood vessels, and it's where the initial embryo implants for the baby to grow and where the placenta forms. The ovaries secrete the eggs, one every month, and they also secrete certain sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone. The fallopian tube is where the egg travels down to get down to the uterus, so it connects the ovary to the uterus, and fertilization actually occurs in the fallopian tube. The sperm will swim all their way up the vagina, through the cervix, through the uterus, into the fallopian tube to meet the egg. The female also has a urethral opening in front of the vagina and the anus behind the vagina. So that covers the female anatomy. Looking at the male anatomy, you've got the testes, which is where sperm are produced. You've got the scrotum, which hold the testes outside of the body, which actually keeps them a little bit cooler for sperm production, the ideal temperature for sperm to be produced. The sperm duct, or the vas deferens, is the tube that then carries the sperm up and out of the testes and round during ejaculation to then go out of the penis. The glands, the prostate and the seminal vesicles, are things that produce the semen. The semen is added to the sperm. The semen contains everything that the sperm need for their journey, really. It's full of energy, full of sugar, for lots of respiration, and it also is alkali.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Looking at the male anatomy, you've got the testes, which is where sperm are produced. You've got the scrotum, which hold the testes outside of the body, which actually keeps them a little bit cooler for sperm production, the ideal temperature for sperm to be produced. The sperm duct, or the vas deferens, is the tube that then carries the sperm up and out of the testes and round during ejaculation to then go out of the penis. The glands, the prostate and the seminal vesicles, are things that produce the semen. The semen is added to the sperm. The semen contains everything that the sperm need for their journey, really. It's full of energy, full of sugar, for lots of respiration, and it also is alkali to protect the sperm against the acidic nature inside the female reproductive system. Looking at the penis in more detail, you've got the urethra, which is the tube that comes out of the penis, and the urethra has two functions because urine will come out of the urethra from the bladder, but also the semen will come out of the urethra during ejaculation and sexual intercourse. So let's look at the journey of the sperm in a bit more detail. The sperm are first produced in the testes, and they are produced all the time once the male has started puberty. They mix with this liquid secreted from the glands called semen, and then the sperm get ejaculated into the vagina during sexual intercourse, and they swim then through the cervix and into the uterus, and then they swim all the way up the fallopian tube where they will hopefully meet an egg. This takes about 10 hours of constant swimming, and absolutely millions of sperm will die along the way, and only one sperm will actually reach the egg or get into the egg and be able to fertilize that egg, and as it does, it will lose its tail, and those two nuclei then fuse and they form the zygote, that first cell that we all started life as, a combination of a sperm from our father and an egg from our mother. And that embryo then will travel, that zygote develops into an embryo which then travels back down into the uterus where it implants into the endometrium, the lining of the uterus, and that's where the baby will develop. Once an embryo is implanted, the placenta will develop, and the placenta provides oxygen and nutrients to the growing embryo, and it also removes all the waste, and it's connected to the fetus via the umbilical cord. The placenta also secretes some really important female hormones that keep the pregnancy going. So the placenta has some really important roles. During pregnancy, the amnion, or the amniotic sac, encloses the whole developing embryo, and it secretes amniotic fluid which protects the baby and helps it to develop, as the baby can float in this fluid, essentially sort of weightless, and develop nicely inside there. So we've got the amnion and the amniotic fluid. Now, during teenage years, boys and girls become sexually mature. This is controlled by the sex hormones, testosterone in males and estrogen in females. The sex cells start being produced or released, if you're a girl, at that age, once your secondary sexual characteristics develop. So you're born with your primary sexual characteristics, either you're a boy or a girl, and you have those basic sexual organs, but they're not activated, they're not really working until you hit puberty. Now, in girls, that can be aged between sort of 11 and 14, and it's usually a little later in boys, between 13 and maybe up to 16. Secondary sexual characteristics then, well, in boys and girls, underarm hair will start to develop, pubic hair will grow. In females, the breast will develop, ready for feeding a baby. The hips will widen, ready for childbirth, and most importantly, the actual menstrual cycle will begin, the monthly cycle of periods where eggs are released in order to be able to get pregnant. That will start at puberty. In males, facial hair grows, the voice breaks, you'll get a more muscular body, and the genitals will develop, and sperm will start being produced.
Okay, so human reproduction, male and sex gametes, female sex cells are made, and they're joined together in fertilization. So the male gamete and female gamete fuse to form a single cell called a zygote. And that zygote splits and develops and becomes the embryo. So the sperm are the male sex cells, and they're formed in the testes or testicles. And the cells in the testes divide by meiosis. Meiosis means in mitosis, you get the same number of chromosomes in the daughter cells. But in meiosis, you get half the number of chromosomes. So it is the haploid number. And in sperm, you'd have 23 chromosomes. And the genes from the male parent are carried in the nucleus of the sperm. Eggs or ova are the female or sex gametes, and they also have the haploid number due to meiosis, and they are produced in the ovaries. And here are some of the differences between males, between the sperm and the egg. The sperm are able to swim using the tail. Eggs are unable to move by themselves. The cilia of the fallopian tube and the peristalsis, the squeezing of the walls, move the cilia down, move the egg down the oviduct. They cannot move by themselves. Comparing in size, the sperm are very small compared to the egg. You remember the picture you saw in the video where there were hundreds of sperm surrounding the egg, or dozens, sorry. And 2.5 micrometers wide, and in the egg it's 120. So it's far bigger. The sperm has very little sperm food reserve. In eggs, other than human eggs don't have that much. They have tiny yolk droplets to find the first. They're not as big as the yolk in an egg. Large numbers are produced. 300 million sperm are released during ejaculation. And in eggs, only one matures a month. There are some women who have, and usually it's one from one side 1 month and one side the other. There are some women who produce eggs in both ovaries, but that's not very common. So you have the head of the nucleus, the middle piece, which contains a mitochondria, which allows the sperm to have a lot of energy for swimming, this middle piece or neck piece, and your tail, which produces a swimming movement. You're often asked sometimes asked in the BGCSE exam, how does the sperm get its energy, or describe what's in the neck and what's in the head, and what's the purpose of the tail. The head has the nucleus with the chromosomes. This neck piece here has the mitochondria for providing energy, and this is your tail for swimming. So this is your egg here. It has a surface membrane and this layer that must be penetrated, and a cytoplasm containing yolk and the nucleus. If some of you have a textbook called Human Form and Function, you'll find the male and female reproductive systems labeled very clearly. This is the drawing that you, or drawing like this one here, and just plain line drawing is what you'd most often see in your BGCSE exam. So what I'd like to do when you're learning it, start from where the sperm start and work your way out. So the sperm start here in your testicles, where sperm are made, and then they are stored in the epididymis. The sperm passes through through this tube here, which is a sperm duct or vas deferens, and go into the urethra. Adding fluid to your sperm will be your seminal vesicles and your prostate gland. And you have the penis, which has erectile tissue, which it gets engorged with blood, makes the penis stiff and hard, and allows it to be placed into the vagina. And you have the sperm, the testes hanging in scrotal sacs outside the body because it's cooler than inside the body, 1 to 3 degrees cooler, and that is better for the production of the sperm. Like I said, all of this is going to be sent to you, so don't freak out that I'm going so fast. And here is the oviduct or fallopian tube again. This is the one more common diagram, which takes eggs from the ovary to the uterus. You have your uterus or womb, and they usually describe the U-shaped uterus as pear-shaped. And your cervix, which is a ring of muscle on the neck of the womb, and your vagina. So we're coming close to the end of our journey. I'm sorry we started late, but let's see if we can answer some of these questions. What are the male sex cells called? Okay, good. Female sex cells, where are they made? Yes, in the testes. Why are they located outside the body? So these are some of the questions you may want to look at and answer. I think I gave you the link for the video. Okay, so I've sent my notes. The notes are going onto the website, the government website, so you can read the notes. It's 17 pages of notes, people. And also the PowerPoint and the videos. I'm hoping they're going to be up to date. I've asked it. There wasn't any, okay. Oh, there wasn't anything on the screen, but my explanation was good. Thank you. I sent the link for the video, but the link will also be on the website as well, okay? If you look in the chat column, you can see the link somewhere. Bye, we have to go. Thank you again. This has been an interesting time for us all, and we're all learning on a learning curve. I thank all of you for showing up each time and participating and asking me questions. So thank you, and I will see you tomorrow at 9. Yeah, it's really early, but I'll see you tomorrow.
A pleasant good morning, boys and girls. My name is Mistress Smith. It's time for your daily language review. Are you ready? Let's go.
Now, we're going to create a complete sentence. I know by now you love making sentences too. It's okay. Let's read the sentence. Hands wash your. Hands wash your. That doesn't make sense. Remember now, a sentence must make sense. It must begin with a capital letter, and it must also have an end mark at the end. Hands wash your. We're going to shuffle those words around so that it makes sense. Let's give it a try. Good job. Let's read this one. Wash your hands. Very good. Now this sentence makes sense. It begins with a capital letter and it has a full stop or a period at the end. Plus, do you know something else? This is a command sentence. Command sentences, they tell us to do something or they give us instructions. Let's keep going. Now we're going to circle the plural noun. Then we're going to place an X on the singular noun. Let's find the plural noun. Now before we do, you have to know what they are. Singular means one. Plural means more than one. And to make something plural, do you know what we do? How did you know that? Yes, we add an S at the end to make a word plural. So let's count the pictures and let's find the plural noun. Do you think bird is the plural noun? Or do you think birds is the plural noun? Yes, you're right. The plural is birds because I see two birds there. And a plural means more than one, which can be 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 100. Yes. Now, let's put an X on the singular noun. Good job. Kiss your brains. Mwah. Very good. Let's keep going. Next, we're going to write the contraction word. Contraction words are two words that come together to make one word. Plus, there's an apostrophe that tells us a letter or maybe two is missing. Here, let's read these two words to find the contraction. Do not. Do not touch the stove. Or we can use the contraction. Don't. Very good. Don't touch the stove. Touching the stove can be very dangerous. Kiss your brain. Mwah. Let's keep going. I'm having so much fun with you today. Now we're going to replace the noun with a pronoun. Pronouns are words that takes the place of a noun or it replaces it. Let's read this sentence below. Then we can know what the noun is so that we can replace it. Christopher is very smart. Oh, I love smart boys and girls, and I know you're smart at home too. So, what's the noun? You're right, Christopher. That's a noun. It's a special name of a boy. But what are we going to replace Christopher with? Which pronoun do we use? Do we use she, we, they, or he? I know. We can say he is very smart because he refers to a boy or a man. And Christopher sounds like a boy's name to me. Very, very good. I knew you can do it. Let's keep going. Now we're going to write the compound word. Oh, I remember these. Compound words. These are two words that when squished together, they make one word with a new meaning. Very good. So we make a new word and a new meaning. So let's squish these words together to see which word we come up with. Butter. That's what you cook with. Fly. Ugh. They spread a lot of germs. So let's squish the words together. Butter. Fly. You're right. Butterfly. Let's spread our wings like butterflies. Good job. Oh man, That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Good job, boys and girls. Kiss your brains. Mwah. See you tomorrow.